Have you ever felt like you've been hit by a truck? Like you had just been hit really hard and you felt knocked down and you weren't sure how you were going to get back up again. You ever felt like that? I know what that's like. On May 3rd, I was out on a run with my husband. And I was feeling really energized because in the previous month ahead of that, I had just flipped my entire business as a new business owner from 100% live to 100% virtual. And I was feeling energized, feeling good about myself, really motivated. So I was out on this run to kind of like release some of that good energy. And we were approaching an intersection where we had the right of way and there was a driver in the right lane and they were stopped at a red light. And my husband went out ahead of me and he was maybe 10 feet in front of me, maybe. And so as I went to cross the street, the truck that was in the right lane decided to make a turn as I was right in front of him. And so the truck hit me and I hit the ground. And when I hit the ground, I landed on my back and I felt like I had completely gotten the wind knocked out of me. I was rushed to the emergency room and I found out that I had fractured my T12 vertebrae, which is the last vertebrae in the base of your rib cage. And that experience was traumatic and it was painful, physically, emotionally, and mentally. And the recovery process over the past 6 weeks, it's been hard and it's been tiring and it's been unpredictable. And I don't know how long full recovery is going to take. And the impact of my setback, it's visible. So you may not notice this until now, but I have a back brace on. I'm wearing a back brace. But your people, many of your people are dealing with setbacks that are invisible. They don't have the back brace. You know, they've had their own experience, their own version of getting hit by a truck in the midst of this season of change. So my question for you is, what are you doing as a leader? How are you showing up differently for your people to lead them well in this time of transition? I'm going to share with you today 3 things you can do, 3 questions I want you to ask yourself as well that'll help you be a more resilient leader. So first and foremost, we've got to offer compassion. We've got to offer our people a sense of compassion to recognize and to acknowledge that, you know what, this has been really difficult. This has been a really difficult season. We're experiencing collective grief and trauma. And we've all lost something. We've lost a sense of normalcy. We've lost a job. We've lost a relationship. We've lost a loved one. We've lost our sense of safety and security. And we're all grieving differently. We're all processing that grief differently and on different timelines. So here's what your people need from you, first and foremost right now. They need that compassion that says, this is hard. This is a lot to handle. And we may not know exactly what you're dealing with right now, but we want you to know that we're in it with you and that we're going to figure this out together. Leading with compassion is also about saying to your people, you know what? Your work matters. It absolutely does. Key performance indicators and all that kind of stuff, that matters, but you matter more. Your work matters, but you matter more. It's about saying and recognizing the importance of honoring and giving attention to the soul behind the role. So how are we getting to know the soul behind the role? This is not, again, just about business as usual, because as we've seen people's kids running around in the backgrounds, and we've really gotten to see people in our natural habitat, and it is different, right? And so people need that from us right now. They need to feel seen and heard, and they need to feel like you're in it with them. And if we're honest, a lot of people are afraid to speak up. They're afraid to share that they're struggling because, to be honest, they don't want to be seen as that squeaky wheel because they're going to be afraid that if they do, that they're next on the chopping block. And so in addition to showing compassion to people right now, we want to offer them curiosity. So curiosity is about noticing without judging. It's about recognizing that everybody has some type of an invisible backpack on. And so we have to be intentional and mindful about dropping our assumptions and our preconceived notions and about showing up by asking questions and by listening. The day after this accident happened, I got an email from a woman that I've never actually had a conversation on the phone with before and never met in person. And we were working together with another group of people because we were 2 of the panelists on a virtual panel about employee engagement. And she saw what happened. She heard the news of the accident and reached out to me and said, oh my goodness, I'm wondering if there's anything I can do to support you and your husband, and I would love to set up a meal train for you so that you don't have to worry about meals, at least for the next month, and you can just focus on healing and getting better. And to be honest, I did what a lot of us do when somebody offers us help, right? And I started thinking of all the reasons why I didn't need it. was like, oh, I'm fine. I can probably figure it out. Like, we'll really be okay. My husband can cook, so he can just deal with everything. That was my first reaction. My first reaction was to resist the help and to push back because, like many people, I don't want to feel like I'm a burden, or I don't want to feel like I'm an inconvenience. You ever felt like that? Like sometimes like, I don't want to ask for help because if I do, that's putting a burden on somebody else and I'm supposed to be the one carrying everything. That's not a sustainable way to live. And so what I've come to learn is that asking for help is actually a power move. So in her book, Dare to Lead, Brené Brown shares a story about some research they did with 1,000 leaders. They have a group of 1,000 leaders. And what they were curious to know is they were wondering, like, what are the behaviors from employees that really build up leaders' trust? And what they found really shocked me. And it was that they found that the behavior that was most likely to engender trust among leaders is when their team members asked for help. And here's why that matters, because when we ask for help, what we're doing is we're acknowledging our own limitations. When we ask for help, we're demonstrating that we want to grow and learn and that we don't have all the answers. We're demonstrating a very uncommon trait in the world these days, which is humility. When we're saying, I don't know, we're giving somebody else the opportunity to step up and to stand out and to use their voice to get unmuted and speak out, which is what I'm all about, right? How can we get unmuted? How can we help people get unmuted? And so that's what we want to do. We want to create that space. And we also want to recognize that a lot of people right now are really struggling and don't necessarily have the capacity to ask for help. And so you as a leader, something you can do, and you're going to want to write this down. A question that you can ask your people is, how can I best support you right now? Reach out to your people. How can I best support you right now? Just that outreach, that demonstration of curiosity and that demonstration of compassion can help open up your people so that they can begin to share the things that perhaps they've kind of been stuffing down out of fear. So once we have that foundation of compassion and curiosity, we unlock the doors to creativity and collaboration. Now, I've been facilitating a lot of experiential virtual learning sessions over the past few months. And I love doing this because I find that what happens is that we get to leverage the collective wisdom of the group and give everyone the opportunity to be heard. And when we do that, we create this incredible level of energy and engagement and creativity and innovation, and it is contagious. It's amazing. And I was leading one of these sessions last week for a group of leaders. And I had them reflect on this question and then kind of share with each other in little small groups to really talk about a time at work where they had a positive and meaningful experience. I had them reflect on that. And said, this is really what you might consider a high point, a time at work where you've had a positive and meaningful experience that you experience as like a high point. Okay, I want you to think about that and share. What are some of the key themes that you're hearing from other people as they're sharing? And the coolest thing happened when we came back together, as people were sharing from these different groups what their emerging themes were. The most common thread through every story was that people felt the greatest sense of meaning at work when they had the opportunity to make an impact with other people. To me, that's really what the definition of collaboration is, right? Making an impact with other people. We thrive when we have opportunities to come together to collaborate and to contribute. Right? And we come alive when we get to be in connection with people as we do that. So what I want you to do is I want you to think about, what you can do as a leader to show up differently. Right? How can you be a leader who offers and fosters a workplace culture that is rooted in compassion and curiosity and collaboration so that people can kind of come together and connect? So I've got 3 questions that I want you to consider and bring back to your team, and that you would reflect on these questions yourself and think about how you would answer them. And so the first is, what is one step I can take, one action step I can take to demonstrate compassion, to show that I genuinely care, to take a step to get to know the soul behind the role? The second thing I want you to consider is, what can you do to demonstrate curiosity? How can you be more intentional about noticing without judgment? And how can you begin to ask your people, how can I best support you right now? And then last but not least, what can you do to intentionally create spaces where people have the opportunity to collaborate, to come together to contribute, to create a space where everyone has a voice and that everyone is invited to be unmuted? I believe that we have the opportunity to come out of this time better, stronger, and wiser than we arrived. And I believe that it's going to happen as a result of leaders who step up and demonstrate compassion, curiosity, collaboration, and connection. I believe that together we can co-create the future of work.